So 3 days ago, the hate Trump media that we told you about at the beginning of the year was in a state of total, complete euphoria, running with wild speculation about a brand new bombshell report from BuzzFeed News. Story alleging President Trump directed his former attorney, Michael Cohen, to commit a crime and lie to Congress. And from the very second it was published, many so-called journalists, they're not, in the mainstream media immediately rushing breathlessly, hysterically to judgment, predicting the president's impeachment. In fact, on Friday alone, fake news CNN, conspiracy TV MSNBC literally mentioned the word impeachment over 200 times. You think we're making it up? Nope. Take a look.
We're deep in the realm now of credibly impeachable offenses.
Impeachable.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeached.
Impeachable. Impeachment. Impeached.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachable. Impeachment.
Impeachment. It seems like an impeachable offense.
Impeachment. Impeachable.
Impeached.
Impeachment. Impeachment. Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachable.
Impeachable.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment. Impeachment. Impeached.
Impeachable.
Impeachment.
This is the tip of the iceberg for a president that is going down.
Well, that didn't exactly age well. As it turns out, BuzzFeed's story was yet another sad, pathetic example of fake news in this country. On Friday night, a spokesperson for the Office of Special Counsel, they literally released a statement totally refuting the article. Now, in their rush to smear, slander, besmirch the President of the United States, members of the hate Trump media totally, willfully, purposefully missed all the glaring warning signs that I had talked about earlier in the day on my radio show. This is who they are. They are pathological Trump haters. They're not news people anymore. First, they had every obligation to show caution. Yet, not one of these establishment news outlets ever took the time to even try and verify the story. Not one. Now, the story was published by BuzzFeed News, a biased, journalistic dumpster fire that first published Hillary Clinton's dirty dossier, in that case, again, without verifying any of its phony contents. Next, one of the two reporters responsible for the latest piece of the fake news, Jason Leopold, he has a long history of just making stuff up. And by the way, issuing stories without any sources. This story was, of course, anonymous. For example, he once falsely reported Karl Rove was going to be indicted, and his own memoir was actually canceled because of accuracy concerns. And third, Leopold and the co-author in this particular case, Anthony Cormier, well, they never actually saw any corroborating evidence for their reporting, although one said they did and the other said they didn't. They couldn't even keep their own story straight. Take a look.
You have two law enforcement sources who tell you that they have seen evidence. Have you seen any of that other corroborating evidence?
No, I've not seen it personally, but the folks that we've talked to, the two officials that we've spoken to, are fully 100% read in.
Now, none of these red flags stopped the hate Trump media from covering the story wall to wall for nearly 24 straight hours, but they hedge it with, oh, if true. What they're really saying when they say that, this is going to be awesome. This will be great if it is true. But after they say, we haven't verified it, if true, it means this and this, and then you got endless hours of if true reporting. They say if true before reporting fake news. In their minds, that kind of makes it okay. As Michael Goodwin said, that would be media malpractice. Watch this.
The story, which has not been confirmed by NBC News.
We should note CNN has not independently confirmed BuzzFeed's reporting, nor, for that matter, has anyone else.
An explosive new report that, if true, if it's true,
If you believe the reporting, if this is confirmed,
If all of this is true,
if true,
we don't have sourcing that confirms this story, but we're not getting steered off of it.
we don't know for sure. You said you couldn't corroborate this.
If true,
This is a potentially very big development.
if it's true.
If true, and then they go on to spend a whole hour acting as though it's true. Now that they've been exposed yet again, the hate Trump media, they literally are whining and complaining that the president and his allies will use just this latest piece of fake news to call them out for who they are. They're afraid they're going to be smeared. The damage was done by themselves. Take a look.
The entire media world.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can all say we did the if trues, and we said we could not confirm, and that's all true. But let's, It was something that the entire media world was telling the public, this is probably true.
Yeah.
By the way we covered this. Now look.
My view is this is the larger message that a lot of people are going to take from this story is that the news media are a bunch of leftist liars who are dying to get the president, and they're willing to lie to do it.
Well,
I don't think that's true, but
is that is that different? I mean, that's not. That's
well, I mean,
things-
I'm focused on the
mutually
media side. Preet's talking about the law enforcement side, but I mean, they're not contradictory. But I just think this is a bad day for us.
Because it is true. That's what you want. You cannot hide your giddiness whenever you think for the 400th time you got him. All right, we didn't get him this time, but we'll get him next time. Now, the media almost always gets it right. They claim, but don't believe your lying eyes. Remember, we're to be trusted, they claim. No, I think forever the term fake news is branded over their foreheads. Over the past 3 years, we have watched incident after incident. An extreme pathological hatred of this president has led the media to gleefully, hysterically report one fake news story after the other, predicting impeachment is coming along nicely. And you can tell they want that to happen. NPR lying about Don Jr.'s Senate testimony, or the fake reporting about Michael Cohen's fantasy trip to Prague, which never happened, or The Guardian's bombshell featuring Paul Manafort, Trump, and Julian Assange. Or what about the 3 CNN staffers, fake news CNN, fired over a false report about the mooch, Anthony Scaramucci? And it gets worse. Look at your screen. For 3 years, the fake reports have not stopped. We can go on all night doing this, one right after another, after another, after another, and we'll keep going. Now, the stories target everyone associated with Trump. That includes Ivanka, Jared Kushner, Nikki Haley. Brett Kavanaugh. Remember that one recently? And to even the First Lady of the United States and a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid at the time, the son of the president. They are blinded by this hatred of Trump. It's every second, minute, hour of every day, and they're held accountable by almost nobody. They just move on to the next lie. The mainstream media has never been worse than what you now see it as, and yet these are people they want you to trust. You're supposed to trust. These are people with a monopoly on, quote, the facts, when in reality the hate Trump media is only an extension of the Democratic Party. Quick example, manufactured crisis. Oh, they all use the same word. Coincidence? I don't think so. And even after this BuzzFeed bombshell was debunked, well, Democratic Congressman Shifty Schiff, he's vowing to investigate what we now know is a false claim, and we already know that it's false. What's to investigate? Take a look.
So there is a lot more to learn, and
are you still going to investigate the claims?
Absolutely, absolutely. Congress has a fundamental interest in two things. First, in getting to the bottom of why a witness came before us and lied, and who else was knowledgeable that this was a lie.
What a waste of your time and money. Which brings us to our next Hannity history lesson: the death of journalism. Right here on this network, I pronounced journalism dead and buried after the mainstream media, they just refused to do their job and even vet in any small way then presidential candidate Barack Obama. We were among the only people to show Obama's ties. Let's see, Frank Marshall Davis, Acorn, Alinsky, 20 years in the pews of the GD preacher himself, the Reverend Wright, Obama starting his political career in the home of 2 domestic, unrepentant terrorists, Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn. In fact, the only question, he got asked one time about Ayers and Dohrn during the whole campaign, and it was me, the day before on my radio show, that fed the question to George Stephanopoulos. He had never even heard about Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn, and that was the only time he was asked that question in the entire campaign. He didn't know about the seedy connection. And this turned out to be the only time Obama was ever asked about his, domestic, unrepentant domestic terrorist friends whose home he began his political career. Now, imagine for a second, let's say Donald Trump started his political career in the home of unrepentant terrorists. How many times do you think your friends in the media would have asked him? Now, everyone else, they were worshiping the entire time Obama ran at the altar of Obama. Or as the ever so eloquent Chris Matthews put it, getting thrills up his leg. And of course, the media's bias started long before Obama, and we see this one-sided reporting exemplified in the constant, consistent rush to judgment, not only in the political world. Remember in the 90s, the media all but convicted in the press. I was in Atlanta at the time. A man by the name of Richard Jewell, that he was responsible for the 1996 Summer Olympic bombing there. And they said, well, he's single, and he's a white man, and he lived with his mother and his parents, so he fits the description of what a lone bomber would look like. Now, of course, Jewell was later vindicated, totally innocent. It turns out he was a hero that day, but it was too late. This man's life was ruined by the media. Richard Jewell once told me, he was listening to me that day when the story broke, that I was the only person in Atlanta that he knew that didn't rush to judgment. That was a valuable lesson for me in my life. And we saw something similar. Remember the Duke lacrosse case? On this show, I went out, we withheld judgment. We don't rush to judgment. I even went to and met with some of these kids and their parents in their home. That's called being responsible, trying to get information before I come to a conclusion. Don't forget about Darren Wilson. His police career is over, Ferguson, Missouri, for no reason at all. Or the officers in Baltimore. Remember the media? They were convinced that those cops were going to be convicted of murder, all 6 of them. None of them were. And when the media blindly touted Obama's statement that the Cambridge police, they acted stupidly, we didn't fall for that one either. Or the fake UVA rape claims published by Rolling Stone and picked up by every media outlet in the country. And don't forget about, some of the salacious gang rape claims made about U.S. Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh and that circus they put us through fairly recently. Flash forward to this weekend, and we have yet another example of the media again rushing to judgment. Remember, this whole thing with BuzzFeed happened on Friday night. For 24 hours, many in the media, then on Sunday, well, they were vilifying this teenage high school student who was filmed looking at a Native American man as he was, what turns out to be, praying and drumming in front of him. The teen was wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Uh-oh. And then the media, they went with wild speculation. They went with one small clip and raced to a conclusion. They said he was taunting the Native American man when, in fact, the Native American man actually walked over because he saw a ruckus beginning and trying to bring peace. One reporter tweeted that his smirk was weaponized and a weaponized facial gesture, which is derived from his white privilege. And then you had CNN, well, they had a contributor calling the teen deplorable and implied that he should have been punched in the face. And a BuzzFeed reporter said that it's the look of white patriarchy in the country. Failed comedian Kathy Griffin, the one with the decapitated head of the president, called for him to be doxxed. In other words, give out his address, his contact, so that, that puts a threat on the kid's life? Alyssa Milano tweeting that the red MAGA hat is the new white hood. And, of course, a Democratic congressman jumping into the fray, tweeting, quote, I'm calling for a total and complete shutdown of teenagers being able to wear Make America Great Again hats until we can figure out what is going on. What? They seem to be poisoning young minds, he said. And after receiving serious blowback for the attack on the First Amendment, the congressman said, oh, it's only joking. Never mind. He wasn't joking. This is just the same thing they did just less than 48 hours prior with the BuzzFeed story 2 days earlier. And naturally, all the statements we just showed you were based on what was a short video clip with no context and without any kind of investigation, just an overwhelming rush to judgment, hatred, because probably the kid was wearing a MAGA hat. For additional video, public paint a much different picture. First, the group of teenage Catholic school students were being taunted and mocked by a radical group of activists. After some time, the Native American saw what was going on, and to his credit, he walked over, and what he said was a prayer. The boy said his story was, I just wanted to smile and say, show him that I meant no ill will towards anybody. It was the group of high school students. Well, they were the ones that were being called all sorts of names. And by the way, they were trying to be helped out by the Native American who walked over and said he was praying. Take a look for yourself.
Look at what America produces. This is the religion of America. That's Make America Great Again. A bunch of child molesters That's right. Just like your damn Donald Trump. Look at all these dusty crackers with that racist garbage on. Look, crickets. That's right. They come again. Look at our Make America Great Again hats. Look at the hats.
Now, the Native American man, his name is Nathan Phillips. He said he was trying to create calm between the two groups with his drumming and praying at the same time. And I would be willing to bet his intentions were pure. Well, we have members of the extreme media that rush to judgment all the time in the Democratic Party vilifying this teenager, rushing to judgment with very few facts, very little evidence, no context. The group that was doing this are a bunch of radical racists. And they are well known for the horrific things they say and the things that they were saying to these young kids. Now, they tried to literally, in a short period of time, they were exposing this kid's name, his address. They tried to get him kicked out of school. Even the school jumped on the bandwagon shortly thereafter, and they demanded the young man's contact information be released. Why? So the public could harass him and his family and intimidate them without any facts. And as we've learned time and time again, nobody should rush to judgment. No one. And no one is safe from the radical left. They vilify, they smear, destroy, besmirch, bludgeon anyone who fits their idea of a conservative Trump supporter. They pretend to be tolerant. They pretend to be kind. They pretend to care about all people. That is a facade. That is not reality. The truth is, America's left tolerates no diversity of thought, no diversity of opinion. Anyone who they disagree with is open to this type of treatment. We're going to have a lot more on this throughout the hour tonight. But first, we also have, it is day 31 of the partial government shutdown. The president is working on real solutions to secure our border. It's not a manufactured crisis. 90% of our heroin crosses that southern border. And then, of course, all the crimes that we have highlighted on this show that have taken place by illegal immigrants that commit crimes. The 2%, not the 98%. The president wants to reopen the government. And with that, he offered to add DACA. I thought Democrats wanted DACA, protection for dreamers, and a deal. But, of course, before he even mentioned the deal, they already rejected it, as they've rejected every single day an opportunity to sit, talk, discuss, debate, and make a deal with the president. Take a look.
Our plan includes the following: $800 million in urgent humanitarian assistance, $805 million for drug detection technology to help secure our ports of entry, an additional 2,750 border agents and law enforcement professionals to physically secure our border. The plan includes $5.7 billion for a strategic deployment of physical barriers or a wall, 3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago.
So the president is trying to do his job. Honest efforts, reaching out to the Democratic Party in every possible way, an invitation a day. They won't meet him. They're too busy traveling on paid junkets and using taxpayer money. And once again, they want to score cheap political points. I thought they cared about the furloughed workers. Apparently not. I guess they cared about the DACA kids. Apparently not. And the dreamers. Apparently not. The president tweeted, quote, Nancy Pelosi, some of the Democrats turned down my latest offer yesterday before I even got up to speak. They don't see crime and drugs. They only see 2020, meaning an election year, which they are not going to win. Best economy. They should do the right thing for the country, allow people to go back to work, and secure the borders. And while Democrats dig in and obstruct, even some in the hate Trump media, they're even beginning to admit that the president is making Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats look pretty stupid. Take a look.
They were in the bus heading to Joint Base Andrews. He made him look like fools coming back, sitting there at the Capitol in the driveway there, basically trying to figure out what's coming next. He caught them in the act as if they were sneaking out of town and made them look stupid. I mean, it looked like a political dirty trick to me.
Nah, maybe they should stay and take the president's invitation and sit down at a table. Oh, when they had a chance to sit with the vice president weeks ago on a weekend, they sent their aides. They were too busy. Unfortunately, the cost of an unsecure border are growing more deadly every day. As you have seen right here on this program, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't meet with them last week. We have talked to angel moms and dads who have lost loved ones to illegal immigrant crime. And now tonight, we're learning that a suspected illegal immigrant was arrested this weekend in connection with a string of brutal murders, this time in Reno, Nevada. Now, authorities say that they have evidence connecting 19-year-old Wilber Ernesto Martinez Guzman to all 4 homicides and that, quote, he is likely in the United States and was detainable. Border security is not a manufactured crisis. It is a reality. It's time for Democrats to stop the Trump hate, do their job, stop the political ploys and the lies, fund the border, which they supported 4 years ago, get the wall built that they supported 4 years ago, go to the table, sit down, accept the president's invitation, negotiate. In other words, it's time for them to roll up their sleeves and do their jobs. Maybe if they don't get another paid junket to a luxury resort in a chartered plane with a big carbon footprint. Up next, we have a panel reacting to my opening monologue. Also, Sarah Carter was at the Women's March in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. Our cameras were there, asking them about the anti-Semitic scandal surrounding 2 of the group's leaders. Their answers will shock you. Also, later tonight, we tell you about a new segment you don't want to miss, Hannity Watch, vetting the 2020 Democrats, something you will get nowhere else on TV or in the media. Straight ahead.